So, this is what I'm calling the big swap. It's not really a big swap, it's just the build that I did a couple of months ago, the MM300 62 mass style build, wasn't the perfect version. It wasn't the one I originally set out to build. I wanted to build one with the SBDC051 dial, the 2017 62 mass. And now that I've got one of those dials, it's time to pop the crystals out and swap over the chapter rings and then put the parts back in and put on a new dial and hands. And I'm going to be using the black date disc from the SKX 007 build that I did. So that dial's coming off, those hands are coming off. It's a shame, they did look pretty good, although the hands weren't fantastic, the loom wasn't very good, so they won't be missed terribly. And we're going to end up with something pretty good at the end of it. I wanted to do something a bit different with this one. I cut the video to the music, so there's no commentary on this one. It's just short, quick cuts of the build process, and I'll throw some commentary on in between. So let's have a quick look at the parts, and then we'll jump straight into it. So we're going to pop the crystals on both of these, and then we're going to swap the chapter rings over. Then we're going to take this movement and everything on it and put it inside this case. Then we're going to take this brand new bezel insert to replace this scratched one here and put it on this case. And then we're going to take the internals from this case and put them into this one. But we're going to swap this dial and these hands with this dial and these hands. And this dial is the SBDC051 2017 62 mass dial in black. And the hands are the Yaboki's 62 mass style hands, the classic ones with C3 loom that should match the dial perfectly. And of course, this lovely loomed bezel insert is going over here. So, that's the preamble. Let's do this. So now that everything's disassembled, I can swap over the chapter rings, pop the crystals back in, hopefully without problems, because I had issues last time, so I know for certain that one of the gaskets for the crystal is not perfect, so we might not get an absolute level crystal, but hopefully we can get it in good enough, because I haven't got any spare gaskets on hand at the moment. And let's continue. So we've got one build that's pretty much done. We've got the 62 mass grey style build in the SKX 007 case. I honestly don't know if it's going to stay that way. I might revert the whole thing back to the SKX 007 look, maybe spruce it up a bit, but for now it's going to look like this. I may do a video where I change it in the future. I haven't really decided yet, but we'll see. Now all that's left to do is to put the new dial and hands on the MM300-SBDC051 Hybrid and see where we go from there. Yeah, so I had to remove the hands. The second hand broke. The tube that's in the middle of the hand that slots onto the pin in the center of the cannon pinion just popped out. I didn't even apply a great amount of pressure. I just went to set the hand on and then it just separated. And I did try to put it back together, but I mean, I'm sure there's a simple way to fix it, but I don't have the tool to, you know, crimp it into place, or however whatever terminology is whatever, the tool. I don't have the tool, which is just infuriating. So I did contact Yabokis about it, and he sent me another hand, so whenever that arrives, I'll probably put it on there, but until then, I'm just going to put a plain second hand on there. And because I wasn't happy with the spacing on the hands, we're going to pull those off and put them on again, but fast this time because it takes me longer when I'm shifting the camera around to get different angles for putting on the hands. This time, I'm just going to put these hands on there, get them done, get it cased up, and get this build finished. So there you go, this is the result of the big swap, the two watches having the chapter rings swapped. I call it the big swap because to me a big task is popping out the crystal, swapping things over, because if you pinch a crystal gasket, it's just game over. You just need another one. And I think even though I didn't get the crystal in absolutely flawlessly on the MM300 case, it's close enough. I think that the gasket that I used on that one just already had a little pinch in it, and so there was just nothing I could do about it. But I think that from now on, whenever I press in crystals, I am going to use the large die on the crystal press, because it just presses the crystals in so much better. You literally just put it in, press it down, rotate it 180 degrees to be facing the other way, and then press it down again, and it's on, it's done. It worked absolutely flawlessly for the other case, which is great. And you might have also noticed the new bezel, the one that doesn't have scratches on it. I didn't have to sand this one down because of the more angular slope on the crystal that was in that case. So you know, it's really nice that I didn't have to change that insert at all. It just fits on there, no problems, looks great. So I'm happy with that. So let's just have a look at this MM300-SBDC051 combo. I think this looks absolutely awesome. In the end, I didn't go for the loomed chapter ring from NamokiMods. I wanted the rectangular look on the markers instead of the sort of rounded look that's on the loomed one, but I am possibly going to use that for another build in the future if I decide to revert this grey 62 mass build to an SKX 007. I think I will put the loomed chapter ring in there, so that's potentially going to look pretty great. I might even get a loomed calendar disc set and throw a loomed bezel insert on there to just have a loom-tastic SKX 007, sort of the hobbyist's ideal SKX, because hobbyists, you know, can't always get hold of rare OEM dials and OEM hands, but I still think it would look pretty good. So let me know if you'd like to see that in the future. I may do that. I honestly haven't decided yet, but it's, you know, I'm thinking about it. So yeah, I think this MM300 2017 62 mass build I think looks absolutely awesome. And once I get the replacement 62 mass second hand to go on there, I think it's going to look even better. The loom, everything matches absolutely perfectly, which is fantastic. The bezel insert, the hands, the dial, it looks pretty great, and the loom is pretty awesome, so I'm really happy with that. I think the style of this dial and these hands just look fantastic in this case, and now that we're using a chapter ring, the dial doesn't look so shrunken down. I think when you're using a case that's designed for a dial that has the markers on the dial and not on the chapter ring, everything's a bit closer to the glass, there's not a chunky chapter ring section, which when you put just a blank brush chapter ring in there, it just makes the dial appear much smaller. And, you know, best way to mitigate that is to increase the size of that dial space with a chapter ring that almost looks like it's part of the dial, so I'm happy with that. I think it looks much better this way. And frankly, I just think it's a gorgeous watch in general, and I'm going to really enjoy wearing this one. One last thing I'd like to try on this though is we're going to put a Heimdallr MM300 bracelet on it and see how it fits. Obviously the bracelet's not designed for this case, but we're going to see how it fits. Not perfect, is it? So yeah, the bracelet does fit, but it's not a perfect fit. I just couldn't bend the spring bars in any decent way that left them functional. I tried bending a spring bar with some pliers and it just didn't function correctly, so I just took some thinner spring bars and I just mitigated how thin they were by putting some heat shrink on there, so that actually worked a treat. It's not perfect. There is play in the end links, so you can see a gap, which is disappointing, but I don't know if I'm going to keep this bracelet on here. If I can find a better solution to make these end links fit better, I may, because it's a very sturdy bracelet. Heimdallr really do make high quality stuff using the standard pin and collar system. Really good pins and collars actually, quite long collars, so they're not as easy to lose. I thought it was worth a try just to show you guys whether or not the bracelet does fit, and technically yes it does, but it's not a perfect fit, so honestly I wouldn't recommend it. So that's going to do it for the big swap. I'm really pleased with how the MM300-SBDC051 Hybrid turned out. I think it looks fantastic. And in terms of the other build, it's honestly, my little SKX 007 just keeps getting tinkered with, and I think it's just going to be one of those tinker builds. Maybe it will eventually find its way back to an SKX 007 style build, and then it will stay that way, but I'm certainly having fun tinkering with it anyway. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.